Good afternoon and welcome to the Preservation Association of Lincoln Brown Bag Lecture Series. My name's Eileen Burke. I'm the coordinator of these brown bags. The Preservation Association of Lincoln is sponsoring the taping of today's program. Our speaker today is Joel Sartore. Joel grew up in the Omaha area and received a bachelor's degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in journalism. Joel is a National Geographic photographer who lives in Lincoln. Again and again, his work takes him around the world to document species for his photo arc project, which strives to get people to care about all creatures, great and small. The goal is to inspire the public to action while there's still time to save species in their habitats. Here at home, Joel and his wife Kathleen are longtime members of PAL and have renovated several historic buildings in and around Lincoln, including Waveland Farm near Walton, the Hitchcock House on Sheridan Boulevard, the Fontanelle on South 48th Street, and the Lewis Seifert House on the UNL campus. If you're seeing a trend here, you're right. Joel likes to save things. Please join me in welcoming Joel.
So, thank you everybody for coming out. I was having dinner at our mutual friend Clark DeVries's home not long ago, and Eileen and her husband Charles were there. And Eileen, during the salad, said, "What are you doing on January, what's today, 11th? January 14th. And I said, "Is this a trap?" And indeed it was a trap. So we decided to do a talk today just on preservation because this is the Preservation Association of Lincoln. And I said to Eileen, trying to get out of doing a talk, I do animals mostly. She said, no, you're preserving animals, you preserve buildings, it's all good. Just preservation, just do that. Pass the salad. And so here I am. Also, this clicker does not work. I'm pretending the whole time. So watch this. Preservation, it ain't just for buildings anymore. Look at that, see? Okay. So there's different types of preservation, right? One type of preservation is self-preservation. Self-preservation is when you're trying to get away from bad dogs or wolves or polar bears or bison that pin you underneath the back of a feed truck for an hour or so. You just get underneath there and you stay underneath there because otherwise you would not be preserving your own life. That's one type of preservation. Another type of preservation is if you're taking on old things, old buildings, which we all love to do in this room. We want to see them saved. So this is one of the first projects we did. We did one in Wichita where we lived, and then when we moved back, we tried to preserve the Waveland. Oops, I got to be in front of the microphone. Take it out. Okay. We tried to preserve Walton Farm, Waveland Farm, out in the country by Walton. And it was pretty far gone. There hadn't been anybody living in it in years, and cattle were walking through the center of the house at some point. We could tell, but they saved all the goodies in it, and we were able to restore that and got it on the list. And Ed, did you help in that?
Not with that nomination.
But other ones, at least two other ones, Ed has helped with. So that's how the farm turned out later. So this thing about saving things, I'm a really firm believer in trying to make the most of your life and doing good every day if you can. I'm an Eagle Scout, and that's a big deal because you're supposed to try to do something good every day. And I think that applies to your whole life. If you're doing something good every day, it means you're trying to devote your whole life to doing good things. This is another place we renovated, which Ed did get listed. This is the name of the house. The old-time name is, do you remember that one? Is near Dunbar, Nebraska, named for the first owner. Yeah, it's a Gothic house with arched windows. And in walks John O'Hare, who did a lot of the work for us. He's passed away now, unfortunately, but he did a ton of work over the years. He was famous for his big felt hat, and his ability to do anything with used building materials. And so he was able to take whatever we had in that house and bring it back to life. And he worked in there months and months and months. Once in a while, some lady brought over her pet raccoon to show it to us. You know, it's out in the country there near Dunbar, Nebraska. But that house turned out just lovely. And I'd actually remembered I'd been to Martha Stewart's house years ago for a story on Connecticut, and we had this floor that was a maple floor with chunks out of it. And we thought, how can we restore this? We put a big heavy coat of enamel paint, and then Kathy went in and painted this mosaic of green and did that, and then she painted the other mosaic of green. And we do shoots in there over the years, you know, high school, senior portraits, that kind of thing, just to keep the house going. We've since sold it, but we did all sorts of shoots out there. And then, of course, because there was a barn that was going to be demolished, we wanted to save that too. 3 miles away, no problem. We hired Enser movers, and they moved it in down the road and put it on a set of old-timey concrete block, rough face block. And then Charles DeVries installed a staircase that I'd bartered for him with. I traded him an old roll-top desk for a staircase, and he said, comes with installation, Joel, but he never thought I'd find a building to use it in. That's why we set that barn at a certain elevation, so he would have to install the staircase. That's how it turned out. So, you know, these things take a lot of time, and they take a lot of money. And it is disheartening at times, but it is worth it. We think it's worth it. Son Cole now has picked up that bug as well. He did this house on Park Avenue. This is his first home. This is what it looked like when he got it. It was pretty messed up, and that's afterward. He has a really good sense of interior design and style and art. He runs the Lincoln Art Company here in town. He took the front of the house, painted it. Lovely. But that was just the warm-up act to this house he's just finished over on Kings Highway. That's how it looked when he bought it. It's in a lovely neighborhood. That's him using a nifty lift that I went in on with friend Clark. It's really amazing. And I've never been all the way up. It's like goes like 50 feet. It's terrifying. But he learned how to tuck point. There's Clark down below looking on. Cole really went after this house. It was a little bit of a hoarder house when he bought it, and so the first order of business was to clean it out, and it had already been gutted largely due to fire over the years or due to flooding or whatever the problems were, and that's the living room today. So he really knows how to honor the building currently, but add some modern touches as well, saving all the original parts, of course, labeled clearly in the basement. But everywhere he went, this is the kitchen. That's how the kitchen looked after he'd cleaned it up. You really couldn't walk in it, and that's how it looks now. So just being able to see, to envision how a space should look, that's a remarkable skill, I think, and that's how it looks today. So I'm really proud that he's decided to do it, although it doesn't make any sense financially to do these things. None at all. This is the Fontanelle. This is where our office is. On the left is how the building looked with what we call the tumor on the front. That's how it looked when we bought it. It was called the Pickering Professional Building. And then on the right is how it looks today. This is that's the listing picture. And that's the tumor coming off. That was the first thing we did. We didn't care if the building had a big hole in the middle. We wanted to restore it to how it was. We put a block called Fontanelle in it that came off the old Fontanelle apartment complex not far from the Capitol. We thought we'd put that to good use and installed that and renamed the building. Enter John O'Hare again. He's just, he was really a Renaissance man. He could take all of our old building materials and really make something out of it, you know. And preservation's what the talk's about. So we want to save, we were green before we knew it was a thing, saving all these old materials in a barn or two out at the Walton Farm so that then we could come back in and just restore anything we wanted to and not spend a ton of money. Jesse O'Hare, John's son, came in and did quite a bit of work, including bathroom floors and laying a bamboo floor downstairs for Cole's office, the Lincoln Art Company, the gallery downstairs, and that's how that looks today. Upstairs was more problematic. There were, Dakota, how many tons of gypcrete? Like 6 tons of gypcrete. So this is forlorn wife Kathy looking at the pile that we hadn't scooped out of there yet. But this is a picture from the Pickerings, from Mr. and Mrs. Pickering, showing that gypcrete being poured in that building originally out of a hose back in the early 70s, and then it all was crumbly, and we scooped it all out, 5-gallon buckets at a time, back up one, and we filled up a dump box trailer out an upstairs window and took all those tons of gypcrete away, and then Dakota went through with dental picks, and he picked all that white gypcrete out from between the boards, and when we were able to sand, he painted, and that's it as of last week. So it turns out nice, but you really have to love it. You really have to love it. And it doesn't start, preservation doesn't end inside the building. You got to go outside the building. And this is really not being, trapped isn't why I'm here today. Trapped is not the right word. It is an opportunity to tell people, anybody watching, that restoring things on the outside is a really good idea. Let's quit poisoning our lawns. People drink that junk. Insecticides and fertilizers and herbicides, that's bad not just for fish, it's bad for us to drink that junk. So we tried to take a lot of this property on the outside along 48th Street, very busy place, and we planted milkweed that we transplanted in from the country. Even if it was late at night, I made my kids work all the time, right? And we planted prairie out there, and it's not enough because most of the time prairie is not in bloom, but it's good habitat for insects which feed birds. If you love birds, you have to have insects. They feed their babies insects. They don't feed their babies bird seed. So you have to have insects in town if you want birds. So having native plants, native prairie is a good thing, and putting signs out front so the weed board doesn't get called every week when it's not in bloom. That's a really good thing, too. Educate the public as they're going by your house and show them what you're doing in terms of native plants. Native plants, no chemicals, no watering. It's a really good thing. It's time that we started doing it. We do this on a bigger on a more of a landscape scale out in the country by Bennett. We dig out a pond if it's all silted in and create more wetland, and then plant native prairie all along the edge of the pond as well. And that comes in and it's beautiful. It does take maintenance though. You have to maintain it. This is a prairie we tried to restore out in Valparaiso. I say tried to, because there's so many cedar trees out there. This was shot night before last with Spencer, who spent almost his entire Christmas break cutting cedar trees out with a lopper while I used a chainsaw on bigger trees. And I told him it comes with cash and prizes if you stick with it. And so he has. And so he has. Well, back to what I normally do, and that is wildlife, animals, right? That's the thing. Preserving, saving, that's the whole deal. I was inspired by lots of people over the years, mainly my parents who cared about this type of thing, and by people that I'd read about, people like George Catlin, who painted what he thought was worth preserving, native culture. He could see that European settlement was really going to alter ways of life, and so he spent a good deal of time in the late 1700s painting native traditions, what the challenges they faced, religious ceremonies, where they lived, how they dressed. It's a big deal. And Edward Curtis came along when photography was very new in the late 1800s and got a grant from J.P. Morgan to basically document 80-some tribes out in the Pacific Northwest and all through the American West into the Southwest, and basically spent his whole life in giving his full measure of devotion to the idea that these folks are, at least in pictures at least, are worth showing, the people that knew the old ways, the original style of dress. He documented that for us. That's all he did with his entire life, and we have that to refer to this day. Audubon did the same thing in a way with native birds that he could see were going to go extinct. He painted those well before photography. We had these birds right in Nebraska: ivory-billed woodpecker, Carolina parakeet, passenger pigeon. We had these birds here. The telegraph doomed the passenger pigeon, that we could tell each other now where the big flocks were going, and we could go market hunt them down to nothing. And that's what did them in. Well, we would have done them in eventually anyway, but how could you take something that went from billions down to none? This is of great interest to me, and it should be to you too. When I started working for Geographic, I would do stories like on grizzly bears or wolves or Connecticut or Brazil, whatever. I tried to keep things on the natural history side always. But the theme that I saw again and again as I looked at these animals in the wild is that they are being crushed. They're being pummeled by people. We are everywhere, and we are relentless, and we are greedy, and we're scared, and we want it all. We want to take all of it in case there's a time of want. Why not get it all? And so whether you're in Alaska looking at bears or you're in Australia looking at koalas, why do these moms, human moms, have baby koalas? Because baby koalas take as much effort and as much care as a baby human. They have to have attention constantly or they don't thrive. They don't. And koalas are in big trouble because moms get hit out on the highway trying to cross a street or bitten through the head by domestic dogs. They have no defenses against traffic or against dogs. They don't have any habitat, really. The trees are being cut faster than we cut trees here. So this is 1 week's worth of koalas all killed by dogs, including that mom and baby there, at one rehab hospital that tried to save them. You see all the medical devices still taped to them. That helped get the policy on these animals changed in Australia and got the northern koala protected status, although lots of people have been working on it. You can never claim any victory as your own. But that's how the photo art got started. The need to really show animals as they are in the wild, show the threats, and try to get people to care. So, these are frogs in the up in the mountains of California that are going under. This is a primate at a bushmeat market in Equatorial Guinea. Gonna be made into stew that night. Well, this is just the animal seeing itself for the first time in the reflection of my lens as I photographed it. So I just figured if I started taking black velvet with me and photographing animals in a really austere setting, nothing but eye contact and no size comparison, very clean. You cannot distinguish the size of this little frog, the size of my fist, and a polar bear. They're all the same size. There's never going to be any full stories in National Geographic done on some little esoteric frog. We do a lot of stories on polar bears, gorillas, tigers, the things that really drive people to want to read more. But by doing a photo arc, something that can stick around, maybe this is my attempt to try to preserve these animals. Uh-oh. Failure. Let me help. Hold on. People at home, go to the bathroom. All right, there we go. So the frogs that you're seeing here are super rare. And why should we care that this animal's down to these two, the male on the left and the female? Why should you care that this is the last one of this, or the last one of this, or the last one of this? Why should you care? Why should any of us care about a fly going extinct, or a little skipper, or a rabbit? How does that affect us? Well, individually, they don't, in a way. I can see why people just care about the Kardashians and the Super Bowl and the price at the pump and politics and hating each other. Are you a friend or a foe, Ed? Are you my enemy or are you my friend? How did you vote? These are all rhetorical questions. Don't answer them. But this idea of sizing each other up and fighting with each other. Does a great nation really have half the people in the front of the boat rowing that way and half the people in the other boat rowing the other way? How will we get anything done if we're hating on each other? The photo arc is not a political piece. It is just an attempt to get people to realize that there's so much out there worth saving still. So much. And it's not just the little things we're throwing away. It's the northern white rhino. This was one of 5 at the time I photographed her. She's passed away since then. She's laying there asleep after our shoot. But this is really a key thing. This is the only chart I will bore you with. This is basically a pie chart of the mammals that exist on the face of the earth. In blue are the cows and pigs and goats we eat. In red is us, and that little green sliver in 2011, that is all the wild mammals that still exist. So this little green sliver is every elephant and tiger and giraffe that your mom ever read to you about in a storybook at bedtime. They all fit right there. It's every zoo animal you've ever seen that you've thought, giraffes, how was that built? Holy cow, how amazing. It's every mammal in that little slice. And that little slice of green gets smaller every year now because we're spreading out. Did you know we were just at 7 billion? Wait, now we're at 8.1 billion. Pretty soon we're going to be at 9 and 10 and 11. And 11, they think it's going to start to slow down. I don't know why. But how many of these animals are going to make it through time? I don't know. But it's kind of my job to see that that doesn't get so bad that we can't live. See, that's the whole secret here. The photo arc is a little bit of a ruse. We use these pictures to get people to engage by doing anthropomorphic animals, animals that look like they're having a great time, or you can relate to it because you have a cat at home, or maybe this animal looks like he's surprised, or maybe you love elephants. These are all ruses for you to realize that as these animals go away, so could we, because we're going to get to a certain point where we lose all the insects that do our pollinating. 1/3 of every bite of food we eat is created by insects, pollinating insects. We have to have them. We have to have flies and ants, not just bees and butterflies. So as these animals go away, so could we. Food does not just come from the grocery store. Clean water does not just come out of the tap, right? So again, using these portraits, eye contact, we can make the polar bear the same size as the sloth, and the sloth is the same size as this porcupine that looks like he has to go to the bathroom. The bottom line is, let's see how many of these animals people will engage with. Will they love them? Will they stop to think about nature? Will they stop to think about something that actually matters, the future of life on Earth? When will we care? Or do we just want to fight? Is that what we want to do? We're like, I guess maybe, I don't know. But there's this line I think about all the time, and it's ours is but for the trying. The rest is not our business. So my job is to do this until I die, and hope that people are smart enough to realize that there's a lot more out there, and saving not only these guys, but the plants as well, and the rainforests around the equator. Huge. Why should we care if Brazil's cutting down all their trees? Why? Because those trees not only do they provide us with oxygen and cool our planet, but those trees actually affect the rainfall patterns around the world, especially on this side of the world. So do you think we need timely rains to grow crops, or millions of people will starve? Yep, we do. It's really important we try to save a good portion of our oceans and our terrestrial biomass. It's a big deal, right? We notice, by the way, that this is a great time to be in conservation. It's the best time to be in conservation because so many people can see what we're doing in an instant. We can bring good stuff to light as well as bad things to light. We're not political, but we really do want to try to showcase anything we can to try to help people be inspired to do things. That's it. We know we can read people's minds now too because of social media. We can tell. We can tell how long they stay on something and how often they forward it. And we can reach the whole world. 330 million people on Geographic's Instagram alone. We can reach about 500 million people through all the Disney NG channels. And we know for a fact people like mammals with big eyes. Think Disney characters, right? Mammals, humans, big eyes. If the animal can stand up and be bipedal, that's an even bigger thing. We respond with more respect to animals that can stand upright, believe it or not. There have been lots of studies on this. We know that we can show animals at Halloween time that look very creepy, very unusual. If they've got big ears, or maybe they look, like a two-headed turtle. Could be a snake that looks very dangerous. These creepy animals we show at Halloween, but we know we lose followers if we try to show them any other time of the year. This is a lamprey, which sucks onto the side of fish and drains the juice out of them, right? This is a baby eye, which is a nocturnal primate. So in all these cases, like we'll show this one on Valentine's Day. You see that little heart right there? Plus they're pink. So we know how to fine-tune this. The big thing, my question is, obviously, I'm not just doing this so I have something to do. I got buildings to fix up, I'm doing this to try to lessen the impact of extinction. So people will fall in love with these animals as I have, as many of you in this room have, and really see if we can lessen the impact of the meteor we call extinction. That's it. We stand guard over works of art 24 hours a day. How in the world would you let this or this or this go to extinction? How in the world could you live with yourself if you're driving these animals, which are so amazing and intricate? How could we live with ourselves if we let these go away? During the pandemic, daughter Ellen helped me. We did insects in a 4-state area, wherever we could work kind of in isolation. Spencer helped too, going out catching insects up. You know what's amazing to me is we hung sheets with bright lights in our backyard, and we live at 27th and Sheridan. We had all sorts of insects come in. They're out there. They're waiting for us. We just have to give them a little bit of a break. We can't coat the entire landscape in insect killer and expect to have diversity like we should, right? And listen, we own a couple farms ourselves, and we use chemicals on those farms, but we also set aside rough, woolly edges for wildlife, for insects. We know that we have to do that. It can't all be a working farm. We have to set stuff aside. And if we don't have timely rains in the right amount on good soils where people know how to grow and harvest food, millions of people will starve. We feed the world. We understand that. But it is a complicated old planet right now, and there are not simple answers. We want simple answers so badly. We want to know if somebody's a friend or a foe. We want to know how they think, but it's got to be in absolutes. It's got to be binary. The world is not like that. These are problems that have taken a long time to start. It's going to take a long time to finish them. Well, I didn't want to be on a soapbox the whole time. So the back end of the show is just how we do these pictures. Just a series of pictures that I don't really show very often. We work in zoos, aquariums, wildlife rehabbers, private breeders. This is at a little zoo in Bloomington, Illinois, where a guy had a bobcat that was trained to go anywhere for little friskies. So this is at the Houston Zoo doing a shoebell stork. We used kind of a camping tent or a mosquito tent to keep him contained. This is at Tracy Aviary. They had a condor named Andy and Condor. And he would literally walk next to his keeper, Helen DeShaw, and they would go through for walks. And he was fully flighted. He could have taken off, but he just really liked her. So they would walk across the grounds, and we'd do portraits of him. I photographed him a couple times. This is a big containment tent that we put Andy and storks and big things inside. This is at the Lincoln Children's Zoo where we started the project. We're now at about 16,500 species after 18 years. And we started right there at the Lincoln Children's Zoo with a naked mole rat on a white zoo cutting board. This is at SeaWorld. This is a walrus that you could park on a dime. Amazing animal, a very gentle animal, even though he was massively built. For pinnipeds, these ocean-going mammals like seals and walrus and sea lions, it's kind of done the same way. We have them come up and they practice before I get there. It's important for the zoo to be ready for me. They've practiced. This is a giant white background that was built in the UAE, and this is before sunrise, and it was still almost 100 degrees. And that was in the fall, like in late September. And we did that to get this species of wildebeest on white. The giraffe was just nosy. This was at the Omaha Zoo a year ago, where they painted a little space in the corner and for mom and baby, and then they pressure washed it off after we were done. This was where? Seoul, Taiwan? Yeah, Taiwan. That's a sort of a little pygmy killer whale. This is along the banks of the Tennessee River with a big crawfish that's native. This is out in, I was out there to do bearded seal, but they had a sea lion that just would not stop coming up. This is right on Monterey Bay. So we photographed her too. This is in Kazakhstan. That's Cole in the foreground doing video, and I'm doing stills in the back. And it's kind of hard to see. This is a saiga antelope, the only tame one in captivity anywhere. And this lady is calling his name, and she's put some apple chunks out, and she put a few here, and she left a little trail of apple crumbs. And eventually he comes up, and we put the floor in later in Photoshop. So they're all against black and white backgrounds, but if it's an ungulate, we don't want them walking on something they're scared of. It's too easy to trigger them. This is just a food shelter, a weather shelter in San Antonio that they painted black for me for hartebeest. This is a typical walking stick. You might think it's unusual, but there's lots of walking sticks that big or bigger in the tropics in Asia. We see that a lot, and there's lots of different types of them. This is on a very hot day in Oregon, just doing an immature heron. These are Arabian bustards, and they're about this tall. And you wouldn't know they're alive. They just stand there. They don't do anything. They just stand there. This is also in the UAE. Son Cole goes with me on all the foreign shoots now, wherever we are. These are Arabian gazelle and sand gazelle in a little white room they prepared. Money, no object there. I spend a lot of time, it seems, on my knees or laying down. And that's really when Cole's kind of the heir apparent, will take over eventually. When I can't get up off the ground anymore, we're all done. So a couple of knee pictures, and then just, these are those bustards again. They're amazing animals. You can just sit and pose with them just like that. They're I don't know how they make a living, really. But laying down, literally every zoo we go to anymore, it involves a lot of laying down and trying to get more of an eye level. There was a big ungulate, a big kind of a mountain goat running around in the background, and he was skittish, so we didn't use lights. They'd prepared a white and black background, and as he paced back and forth, we got pictures of him that way. These are very friendly mule deer out in California that didn't want to go in. This is our taxonomist, one of two, Pierre Chabon, and this was at a place where we got over 300 species of fish in 3 days, little stream fish. Taiwan's remarkable in terms of its numbers of rivers, and they're all different with their own fish. This is UAE. That's in Sharjah at the big aquarium there. Gharial in India. Fruit bats, flying foxes, that's in Australia. This is how we do the big animals we show here, if you can barely see them. Lights are up and out of the way, no cords on the floor. This is at the Oklahoma City Zoo. They had 7 bison. They named each one after a character on Gilligan's Island. So this is Mary Ann, and they could park her on a dime with mulberry leaves. Very easy. This is a South China tiger at a breeding center in Suzhou, China. It took about a year to get permission to paint that wall black. I had to paint it myself. And then nothing underfoot, and fortunately she sat up, and she sat right by the bars there where I could get some light through it. And so that's how it looked to your eye, and this is how it looks when you crank up your shutter speed and start introducing light, and there you go. There she is. So it's a long way to go for a tiger. We do other things everywhere we go too. Of all the things I shoot, primates are the most compelling for people. It's what people relate to the most because, they're very similar to us, but they look different as well. But the emotions are there, compassion and malice and jealousy, deceit, joy, happiness, tired, you name it. Everything. It's right there in all these animals. So we're not so different. We really aren't. We're kind of all the same in a way. It's important to remember to take care of all these others. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's so true. It's so true. The animals that we've saved are of very keen interest to me, and I know that we can do it because I've seen it happen again and again. Now, the giant panda, if you can't save the giant panda, you're just not trying. They're a very beautiful, charismatic animal, and China figured out how to breed them and set aside habitat, so that animal's going to be okay, right? In this country, though, if you look at what we've done to save species, the whooping crane, it's now none of these animals are completely out of the woods. Mexican gray wolf. All these animals, you're looking at fewer than 2 dozen existed at one point in time, and they've all been brought back thanks to people just like us, people that cared. There's nobody goes to school thinking, I'm going to save an endangered species, and yet that's what people have done. And that is the thing why I never get depressed or sad, because I just know that people have this amazing capacity to want to rush in and help. Where they see a need, they want to help make the world a better place. They want to save things, just like me, right? If you look at all the efforts going on out in California right now because of the fires, it's very heartening, and it's not surprising. That is very human. That is very human, and I'm glad of that. This is at a place called Pheasant Heaven. A guy named Don Butler runs this place. He has pheasants that are not even found in the wild anymore. He just knows that to preserve these, he has to breed them. This is a Vietnamese pheasant. It's not in the wild anymore. It's extinct in the wild, and he and several other guys have these collections where they have the world's population, breeding them, getting them out to zoos, encouraging them to do breeding programs, trying to preserve our natural history. Most of the people that I meet that are in conservation work, that's their main thing now. How do we preserve things going forward in time? These things are glorious, as beautiful as any work of art, right? Who are these people? Well, another one, Thilo Nadler. He saw that primates in in Vietnam were being basically poached out of the wild, and the babies were being sold into the pet trade, and there was no place to put the orphans. And he saw them being euthanized. He was like an electronics engineer from Germany who was there on vacation in 1990. He's like, it wasn't my work, it wasn't what I did, but what was I going to do? Let him kill him? No. So he moved to Vietnam, and he and his wife set up the Endangered Primate Rescue Center, and they have single-handedly saved this animal, the Delacour langur, and the catball langur as well. So that's really doing good work with your precious days on Earth. Cole and I went back there not long ago, just a few months ago this summer, and we were able to film some of the amazing animals they have there. It was so hot, we put a fan on me and this monkey, and it looks like a fashion model there. It's just beautiful. It's called a Duke Langur. They don't even look real, you know? Beautiful. And a few here from China to kind of wrap up the show. China has fantastic biodiversity. It took many months to get a journalist visa to get in there. But Cole and I were there for a full month, all the way into early December. We missed Thanksgiving, first time ever. That's not nice. But, you know, the animals are worth it in a way. They have a lot of the same versions of animals we do, but they are very distinct, and they didn't even evolve along the same evolutionary lines as ours, whether it's hogs or bears or crows. By the way, that bear picture that you just saw, this is how it was shot. Look at all the people involved. There's at least 3 arms sticking lights forward, and me, and a guy next to me helping to throw treats out to keep that bear. You get your pictures on bears when they want more food. They lift up and say, "Where is it?" And that's when you get your pictures. So you toss treats in over and over and over again. These are all endemic or localized to China animals. We went all over the country, literally all over the place. And their animals are amazing and fascinating. And very, very rare. This is the only place in the world you can see the Chinese sturgeon, similar to the sturgeon we have here from the age of the dinosaurs. They had one public aquarium that had those animals. It's called a crested ibis. And a Tibetan fox that's known for its square head, oddly enough. Wild yak and a domestic yak in the background. Yaks are pretty common in zoos, but the wild yak, there's only this one place that has them. So they also had cats, which I threw in for Eileen because I know she likes cats. This is a Tibetan snow leopard and a Tibetan palace cat, and the Chinese mountain cat, which is a truly wild cat. It is not a domestic house cat. It is a wild form of cat that evolved on the slopes in China, right? They had, it was well worth it. To me, one of the most interesting things was getting to get the South China tiger again on white, but they're all good. Big or small, we love them all. That's the motto. This guy actually broke the front of my lens, so I don't like him very much. They have bantangs there. They have this animal. This animal was a big deal to get. It's called a Chinese Manal pheasant. And I'm kind of going to wrap it up with this. This animal was down to 22 or 23 in this breeding center. And they're breeding them there in pairs. But this guy didn't have a mate. And so he was really eager to get at us through the wire. So we just went in the pen with him. But to get into this center, they don't allow visitors in. So it was a big honor to get in there. We had to be fumigated. And so what that means is we went into a room. This is the guy that helped us the entire trip, Cole and myself. We don't know what was in that potion, but we went through it 5 times. If you go through every time you had to go to the bathroom or we went to take a lunch break or whatever, we had to go in and get fumigated one more time. So we have one last thing. Let's see if this video rolls. And then we can do questions if you like. Press one more time. There you go. So this last thing, I guess it gives you a chance to think about what will you do with your days. You don't have that many days. You really don't. It's just the blink of an eye. It's all we got, that little dash between the numbers on our tombstone. So what will we do, you know? My job is photo arc, but I try to do things around here with prairies and try to help, I don't know, establish wetlands. And we bought some wetlands out in the sandhills to try to keep those preserved for migrating birds, shorebirds, ducks, geese, other waterfowl. So the point is, everybody can do something. And even if it's simply laying off the use of chemicals in your lawn, that is a fantastic thing because those chemicals move and they get into groundwater Slowly they move, even if there's not a lot of rain. So please do me a huge favor and think about what you can do. We can all do something, and that is enough, you know? That's plenty, I promise you. It's a good way to go. All right, that's it. Thank you. Yes.
I'm a nurse and a cancer survivor, and I thank you for the photos you have out at the April Sampson Cancer Center. It's so therapeutic to look at those.
Did you hear that, Cole? Cole did that show. That's nice. Very nice. Yeah. Cole's our curator for all of our work there. Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, those look good out there, don't they? Yeah. Bob?
On the species that are extinct in the wild, on the species that are extinct in the wild,
Yes.
is there how many of them are reintroduced into the wild if they're in a captive breeding program and so on? Can you talk a little bit about how successful that is, what percentage of those that are extinct in the wild really have a chance of going back, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of them would have a chance. Now, what kind of percentage chance and whether or not they're successful depends on habitat, really. Most time depends on habitat. So like the animals I showed you, California condor, black-footed ferret, whooping crane, Mexican gray wolf, all would be extinct. And they're all in the wild now and doing pretty well. So they would all be extinct without captive breeding programs. So there's lots of hope for these guys. But you really do need forest and prairie and ocean. You know, you really do need places that are unmolested, untrammeled. Climate change is another thing, and you're going to see a lot of disruption to everything, like coral reefs dying because of that. But we never give up. That's not really a thing. You can't, you know. And Jane Goodall comes to the Platte, or used to all the time, and she met with a bunch of people at Rose Sanctuary, and I got to ask her a question. And I said, why do you have hope? We're on our way to 11 billion people. And she said, well, what good would it do to be otherwise? It doesn't do us any good. You have to have hope, and you have to keep trying and working at it. And to me, these little personal victories where I see, I don't know, black-eyed Susans or coneflower come up in a prairie that we've planted, knowing that it was just a pretty toxic cornfield before that's enough. That's great. The photo arc's my day job, you know. But when we can plant prairie and make it sing and get real birds, real prairie birds in there that should be, wow, is that worth it? That is so worth it. So I would say the chances are very good that animals can be reintroduced, provided there's habitat left by the time they get in numbers strong enough to re-release in the wild. Now, there's also downsides that you don't think about. Animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So if you take crows, you guys have all seen crows mobbing an owl, right? Or mobbing a hawk. They're good at that, and they can kill a hawk or an owl. They can kill them. Their beaks are really sharp, and they're strong, and they're agile. They're much more agile in flight than a bigger bird. Think of a fighter jet versus a bomber. Well, in Hawaii, they've saved the Hawaiian crow in captivity, breeding those back from very near extinction, single digits. And yet when they go to release them, because those captive-bred Hawaiian crows never knew about mobbing behavior, they never learned it, those Hawaiian crows are being eaten by Hawaiian hawk and Hawaiian owl, which are also very rare. So how do you solve that problem when the mobbing behavior is the only thing that kept them alive, kept them from being eaten by raptors? These are tough things. Really, that's Hail Mary. Captive breeding is a Hail Mary pass. And sometimes you catch it, sometimes you don't. Yeah.
So, are there people that are doing similar work that you're doing with plants?
Are there people doing similar work with plants? I don't know, but it would be a good thing to do. And we've thought about that, you know, like you would want to have some rules. The reason we don't crowdsource this is because I've built up a lot of trust with the world zoos, and we're really respectful of what the keepers tell us. And we'll go to a zoo and get their inventory in advance. Most of the work's done in advance. They'll have 30 things we need, and they say, well, we can do these 12 because these animals we don't think could tolerate the process. They're too skittish. Or these animals, they're too old. You know, we just don't want to stress them. With plants, you could do it because you could say no cutting. The plant can't be moved unless it's in a pot or something portable. You know, no damaging in the plant. You could do it with plants, but there ain't enough years left in my life to do it. And the Kew Botanical Gardens in London, we figured out they have so many plants that if you worked 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, it would take you about 9 years to do them. And that's just assembly line. There wouldn't be much art involved. It'd just be basic preservation of what these plants look like in life. Yeah. But it's a good idea. A plant arc would be a good idea. But it's not for me. Anybody else? Eileen Burkt.
So can you tell us about your, what you have at Moore Hall?
Yes. The Abbott Foundation and Del Lineman funded an exhibit of photo arc that's on the first floor, which is below grade at Morrill Hall. And it's very nice, and it's pretty extensive, and it's kind of a permanent display that talks about how the work was created and where we're going next, and it just showcases a lot of what you've seen today. But there's a lot more video component to it as well, and it's all on screens, so it's lovely.
And they're keeping your slides too, aren't they? Are they preserving them or not?
Well, Morrill Hall. Well, number one, the photo arc is completely digital. There's no film involved. So it's all digital files, but they have access to them for this show as long as they want them. Yeah. Anybody else? No? All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you.